Hi everyone. Today my guest is a special guest, and the title of this discussion is called Breaking the Taboo. So we will discuss about sex education and positive sexuality. And Paula is an expert in sex education and well-being. She did her master's at the University of Warsaw. So Paula, welcome to this channel and to this interview.
Thank you for having me.
So could you please give us a short introduction about yourself and about the work you do?
So my name is Paula Wawrzyńczyk. I'm Polish. I was born in Warsaw and I spent most of my life there. And for many, many years, I was a volunteer sex educator with a Ponton group of sex educators that are also based in Warsaw. At the same time, I did my studies, my master's. I had a different job, but then I found that this is my calling, basically, and I really want to spend my life doing sex education because this is what I absolutely love, and this is my mission. But to be able to do this job like fully, I had to move to London because in Poland at the moment it's really difficult to work like that. Because of the political environment and political difficulties. So I've been involved with Brooke, which is a British charity, and we work in schools and youth clubs. We also provide sexual health services to people under 25.
Great. So let me start with my first question, very simple. So what is sex education and what does sex education include?
So there are different words for sex education, actually. So I also use the word sex education because it's short. But if you read any international documents, you will find different names. So some people call it comprehensive sex education. Some people call it relationships in sex education. This is more in the British context. You will also find the word sexuality education. But this is they all refer to the same thing, which is a field of knowledge. Which is like a discipline about how to teach and how people learn about different aspects of human sexuality, of relationships, of the law around sex and sexuality, sexual health, how to stay safe. There are so many different aspects of it. So a lot of of being a human, basically. So this is what we teach.
Yeah, great. So what are the goals of sex education?
These are very big questions, very important. So basically, we want, because I focus on young people, so I usually work with young people who are like in between 12 and 25 years old. Mm-hmm. So our goals are to empower young people, so to provide them with accurate, factual, scientific information about human bodies, about sex, about the law, for them to be able to make their own choices regarding their own lives. So it's not our goal to convince them to choose any path or to make any decisions. It's just to give them the right information. Because without it, and well, historically, we have never learned about this topic. So historically, people were just in the darkness, basically, and just could rely only on what they heard from maybe their friends, maybe their peers. They learned from their mistakes, of course. So this can all be avoided if we actually provide correct information. So my goal is to, basically to have a healthier, happier society when people can actually make their own decisions.
Yeah, great. Now, sex education is not just like maths or a history class, it's different. So is there any ground rules for these classroom sessions?
Absolutely. So it depends on of course, on the setting, because in some countries sex education is mandatory and statutory in schools, and the UK has just started doing this on the mandatory level. In some countries it's optional, in some countries it's non-existent. So one of my goals is also to advocate for comprehensive sex education everywhere, to make it a school subject or a part of a school curriculum, or maybe other bigger subject like well-being, health, etc. But yes, these lessons are a bit different. So we need other ground rules because we want to make people feel really comfortable and safe because it's still a taboo, and they may have heard so many negative information from the culture around them, from their families. Some people also, of course, been through sexual assault. So all these information may be triggering for them. So we need to really make sure that they are safe. They know they can always talk to us. They can come to us. They can talk to us in private if there's anything going on. So we always set up ground rules before every session. Also, because I'm a kind of external expert, so I'm not based in any school. So for me, it's really important not to talk about my private life. So we never ever answer any personal questions. This is really important. And we never ask young people very personal questions in a group setting. If we work one-to-one, it's a little bit different. But in a group setting, it's really important because it's not really about their lives. It's not a counseling session. It's not a therapeutic session. We provide information. So it's education.
Exactly, that's interesting. So should boys and girls be taught together, or how it goes?
I think historically this is how people did it. So historically people split classrooms and they taught, for example, puberty to girls and boys separately. There are many problems with that. Firstly, I think that the knowledge was not exactly the same. So kind of girls learned about girls' experiences, whereas boys learned about boys' experiences. But we live in families, we live in a society together. So there is no reason to keep it as a secret, right? To, for example, not to talk about menstruation to boys, because of course they have sisters, moms, and they will have girlfriends and wives. So why would we keep it as a secret? So if there is a specific reason why a teacher would split the class, maybe they know their young people better, or maybe there is a reason. For example, maybe if boys are a little bit more dominating and girls feel a little bit shy, sometimes it makes sense to split the class, but the message has to be the same, so they have to learn the same thing. But overall, I would not recommend it. So overall, I would like to see everyone, every gender, talking together, listening to each other, listening about their experiences, just to live totally separate lives.
I understand. Also, how sex education ensures that every student in every school is being fairly treated, regardless of the sexual orientation or gender identity or gender expression.
This is also one of our ground rules. So we want to ensure to use inclusive language. So that's why if I talk about girls and boys, this is not what we try to do in the classroom. So in the classroom, we always try to talk about every gender because some people don't identify as either male or female. So I don't want to continue to give this message that we live in a binary world and there are only two options, and this is not true. Also, people have different sexual identities, people have different sexual orientations, so we cannot talk only about reproductive sex, so like sex only because people want to have a baby, only like penis and vagina sex. This is not something that everyone would be interested in. Some people will never have vaginal sex, so we have to include all these experiences. We have to talk about sexually transmitted infections, different types of sex, and not to exclude anyone.
That's wonderful. There are people with different gender orientation. For example, say gays or lesbians, it is completely okay to sit and attend the same class with others.
Oh, absolutely, and we have to give young people this space and this safety. So if there is anything going on in their lives, for example, if they experience any bullying at school, which can always happen, unfortunately, they should feel safe to come to at least one professional, one teacher, and to tell them this. If they don't want to disclose their sexual orientation, it's also fine. We cannot force anyone, of course, but if we create this safe environment for people to be able to talk about it, then we win because they trust us and they would come to us. So of course they have to be always included.
Now, sex education is just not for the youth. Now it should be also for the adults and parents also. So what is your take on that?
Absolutely. This is lifelong learning. And especially, I think our generation now, people who are becoming parents, we kind of understand it more. So a lot has changed in the last 20 years. We don't want to live like our parents or grandparents again,
Yeah.
and like in the darkness, basically, when it comes to this. So I think young parents feel this responsibility, and they feel that they need to do more, or at least not to give this kind of negative feedback or negative information. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a sex educator yourself. It's just maybe not to give any false information, and maybe not to be negative about people's bodies, even young children's experiences. So a lot depends on parents' approach to, for example, if a young child even they like to touch themselves because it's pleasurable, right? So they kind of they have this natural curiosity. So a lot depends on the parents' reaction in this scenario. So of course we also educate parents how to approach their children's sexuality. And by sexuality, I don't mean sexual experiences. I mean sexuality as a human being, because we are all born sexual. So if anyone wants some more resources, there is so much online. We have all access to free resources coming from so many different organizations. We have YouTube, we have books. So yeah, I think we all have this responsibility to learn more and to give good information to our children.
Yeah, true. So where should it start? It should start from the parents, or from home, or from the school first, or it should be together?
Ideally both. So I think even before becoming a parent, I would like people to really reflect on who they are, on their lives, their sexuality, and what kind of maybe messages they found very unhelpful when they were growing up, and do they really want to repeat the same things? What they would like their children to know about their bodies, and if they're looking at your parents' relationship, right? So of course children will copy kind of their relationship and how they talk to each other, if they ever touch each other, that kind of thing. So to have it in mind that your child will observe you from the day one, and they will not learn because you have told them something. They will learn because they are copying you. So I would, firstly do this kind of self-reflection, and then of course the children will ask you questions. So a child will come to you. And again, a lot depends on your reaction. So if a child comes to you and asks you, oh, what is sex, for example, because they heard this word somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you say, oh, no, this you will learn, in 2 years, like in 5 years, like this is not for you, this is not a great message, because it's like the child is starting to think that, okay, this is not okay, this is maybe inappropriate, this is a taboo. Yeah. And maybe they will never come back to you because you haven't given them any answer. It's enough to give a very short answer, really 1 sentences or 2, usually children, that's enough for them. So you don't have to worry about it. Just have maybe prepare yourself for that kind of question, because of course they will come at some point. So
yeah, and also the approach towards sexuality is different from culture to culture. Some culture it's very difficult, so that's one of the biggest challenges. So how do you see that?
I'm very, very, very much involved in kind of global sex education. This is something that's really close to my heart, and I come from a country that now is super conservative. So the government is super conservative, but people are not the same. So I would never say that the government is a kind of reflection of the society, because in most cases this is not true. So people have access to the internet. We kind of all very similar. We live in this global world now. So I think the young generation is really different.
Yeah.
And people are aware that if we never talk about it, of course, young people will Google everything. So the problem is they will learn everything from online pornography, which is so easily accessible everywhere, even if the government is trying to block it. Let's face it, it's impossible. So what do you want? So do you want to have these conversations with your child, or just left them alone online? And there are so many potential risks, of course, online, and we know that sexual abuse is unfortunately super common everywhere across the world. So we have to think about it and try to counteract it from the very beginning. So if we think about our children's safety and health, I don't think any parent would oppose to that.
Yeah, right. So just like human rights, is there something called sexual rights?
Yeah, absolutely. That we have a declaration of sexual rights. We have also a declaration of sexual pleasure, which is even better. So yes, so sexual and reproductive health and rights, this is the official word, are part of human rights. So every human being has the right to safe and consensual, healthy sexual experiences, because
Yeah.
and I would like to live in a world where most sexual experiences are actually like that. So they are wanted, and people decide to do what's best for them.
So what do you mean by positive sexuality?
So,
And what is the impact on the overall well-being?
So being sex positive, there are some misconceptions about this word. Some people think that, maybe if I'm not interested in sex, like, am I still sex positive? Like, do you have to have sex to be sex positive? Or like, no. So being sex positive doesn't mean that you want to have sex, or that you want to have many sexual partners, or you're very sexually active. It has nothing to do. It's just acknowledging the fact that everyone is different, everyone will have different experiences, different values, and this is okay. And we shouldn't be judgmental, and we shouldn't try to impose our values on other people, because some people, for example, they may decide to stay celibate, or they may decide not to have sex until marriage. It's absolutely fine. It's again your personal choice. So we should never judge anyone. So this is again creating this safe space and including all people and all experiences.
Interesting. So what are your future plans or projects in mind?
Oh, I have lots of plans. So I'm very much interested in sex education in India. Of course, it's a massive country, so I'm very interested in how it is in different places. I would love to do more, and I would love to work more in India. So I hope it will be possible in the future.
Yeah, I think India needs a lot of sex education classes, and I think the young generation is much more open towards it, and it will be much more easier than say 10 years back. So yeah, it's possible. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, hopefully. So if anyone would like to get in touch, I'm very happy. So you can find me on Instagram, or we can provide any other contact with me, and I'm open to collaboration.
Excellent. Do you have some questions?
Oh, I would love to hear from you. What do you remember from your kind of school education, and did you have any sex education, even if it was maybe more negative? Like, have you heard about anything about sex in school?
Oh, okay. It's from my school days. I think there is nothing like sex education. It's just like the biology classroom, like the reproductive system, and that's all. And so my learnings about sex and sex education is mostly through some health magazines, or just discuss with friends. So I think the situation has been changed from that towards because of the media and the YouTube, things like that. But that's also there is a challenge for the younger generation these days. There are also a lot of misleading information available. So yes, and I have also discussed with many of my friends, and we need a curriculum for sex education. So I think that's where experts like you can step in and actually help the government and the society.
I would love to do that.
So excellent. Thank you very much, Paula. It was a pleasure having you in this channel and for this interview. And maybe we can catch up again, maybe part 2 of it is a big topic, right? So we can discuss a lot of things relating to sex education and positive sexuality. And yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jinu. And if anyone has any questions, yes, feel free to message us, and we will be happy to answer them.
Excellent.